10. I still haven't got this big intro, this big... I don't know, what should the intro be like? Hawaii 5-0 or... I don't know, like Knight Rider? I don't know. What should it be like? Anyway, welcome to the JFDI podcast on Thursday, 8 p.m. from High G's, high in the rooftops of West Lothian. I've got a very special guest for you tonight. I'm super excited to speak to him. First of all, I'll introduce him to you. So I first met this gentleman as we were walking, perambulating, shall we say, across the Peak District. And I've been, so some of you'll know, right? For a few months now, I've had a bit of a hip injury. And I decided to go on this walk because I was training for the fan dance and it was all cool. And I'd hurt my hip and I had gone on this walk and we'd stopped for something to eat and I'd taken my rucksack off and I'd had a bite to eat. And I went to put the rucksack back on, and as I turned round to go up the hill, I was like, "Oh, I've got such pain," and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to go up that hill. And I turned round, I kid you not, about 20 degrees, and I looked up the hill, and this evening's guest was flying up the hill ahead of me, and I just said to myself, "Graham, get a bloody grip of yourself and get up that hill." I'm going to let tonight's guest explain what happened next. This gentleman, that's how I first met him. He's a fitness trainer, bit of a motivational speaker as well. And there's something quite unique about this man as a fitness trainer. I'm going to let him explain. I'm super excited to introduce to you tonight the one and only, he's just finished taking a drink, Tyler Saunders, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, sir.
Hey, good evening, my friend. How are you?
I'm very, very well, thank you. Yes, I'm very well.
That was a big intro, man. That was a big intro.
Well, listen, it's a big intro for what I have to mention for viewers about what we were talking about just before we came on the air.
Yep.
I've been checking out your Instagram, Tyler, and I was like, my God, like Ollie Ollerton and James Smith and like Darren Cartal and a whole raft of other like real famous dudes all follow Tyler Saunders on Instagram. And there's
I got a few blue ticks, a few heavy hitters on there, and it's just from kind of going to various events and kind of just showing my face and networking, and like it's good to have a couple of big dogs on the list.
Not half. What was the last one that you went to?
The last one was International Fitness Summit in Barcelona, and that was in 2019, I believe. Right. And there was like a whole roster of industry, big names there, and there was business conferences, and they had a good party at the end of it. Yeah, and it was you go there to learn, but also just to rub shoulders with some of the big names in the industry, and that's kind of what happened. And with Ollie Ollerton as well, I did his Breakpoint event at Body Power back in 2018, I think that was, or 2019.
Right, okay.
And that was, it's one of those kind of putting myself in a uncomfortable situation, going out my comfort zone, and just met the man, the legend, and he's been following me as well. So it's been an interesting journey the last 5 or 6 years.
Not half.
And here I am today talking with you as well, another legend.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
But I mean, we met at the hike, and I think we'll probably go into it more a bit later on, but the time we met, obviously, a bunch of great guys up there, and it was great connecting with a lot of the fellas. But I think you came in at a time where I was like struggling, and I think everything happens for a reason, and here we are talking now. So
yeah,
we'll get into that a bit more, I'm sure.
Yes. Well. Why don't we just now? We don't. Do you know what? I was looking at all the songs tonight, and I'm like, I can't wait to speak about these. But as always, I like to, we try new things, right? We don't have to dive into the
Mix
songs.
it up. Yeah, let's do it.
We're talking about it, so let's roll.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, carry on, man.
So yeah, we did. I mean, for the viewers who don't know, Gray and myself, we're part of a program called Alliance, with a bunch of great other guys just trying to upgrade our mindset and business and relationships, etc. We all met together, mindset, all the rest of that, and we met to go on. It's 11. Was it 11 miles? 11-mile hike.
I think 11, 12 miles
up in the Peak District, and it was a challenge and a half, to say the least. Like I've done a Spartan race before, which was like half a marathon with obstacles. And I thought, that's going to be, decent enough training. I've done that, survived. I should be okay with this. But it was a whole nother level of challenge mentally and physically. And, lots of conversations with the guys on the walk, but it got to a point where, my arms were literally just fried. My triceps were cramping. My wrists were mashed up. Like everything was just extra hard. And yeah, Graham just ended up next to me with this big rucksack on, and we got through probably, for me, like the most difficult part of the walk, and yeah, pretty much carried me through it. But you saw me a bit earlier on in the walk where there was that ridiculously steep hill.
Yeah.
And we took a break, had lunch, and then turned around, like, took a left and a right, jumped through this gate and over a wall, and we were just faced with this like crazily steep hill.
Yeah.
And yeah, everyone was just going up the hill, and I'm kind of one who just gets on with stuff. I don't really make a fuss or complain. I just thought, right, this looks like a challenge. How are we going to get up here? And using my crutches, and luckily had some like wide bases on them, which prevented me from slipping.
Yeah,
just kind of got my way up there, and then bumped into you later on. You were like, "Fuck me, I can't complain about my aching hip or anything. I have to, sort it out and get up there." And
yeah. Well, my hip was aching, but you see, you're underselling yourself already. You talk about using your crutches, right? But I said during the intro, I turned around and I was like, Graham, get your arse up that hill. Look at that, legend, right? So yes, you've got crutches, but why was I looking at you from the bottom of the hill as you flew up it in awe? Because you only have one leg, Tyler, right?
I'd see. I've left that bit out.
Yeah, you've left that bit out, and we might want it, but for people on here that don't know who you are, and so the reason that we'll get straight to that is very simple, because I think that we're a lot of guys that came along that day who were in the exact same boat. They were like, they saw this dude giving it large with crutches, doing a walk that a lot of people couldn't do anyway, and here you are on these crutches with the base I loved, by the way, and at one leg, and you're going for it. You're just you're on the JFDI podcast, right? And it's all about people applying a just fucking do it attitude to life, to improve your life, right? And I looked up, and Jesus Christ, I'm like, fucking hell. I cannot complain about anything. And in that moment, I just said to myself, I'm going to speak to this dude at some point. I'm going to try and catch him. And it was when I was putting my rucksack on, as you came over the bridge, that I said to you, and then, like you've said, everything for a reason, right? I've seen you taking inspiration, and then later on we've caught up, and we've managed to get through that difficult part of the walk together.
Of the walk, yeah. And
serendipitous, call it.
So many of the conversations that day, like a lot of the guys were saying similar things, and it's always humbling to hear. And I'm kind of where I'm at in my journey now. I'm very grateful, and I show appreciation when people say these great things. But historically, like I don't see myself as anything special, because I was born with just the one leg. I've faced my own adversities and my own obstacles, etc. But because I've always just got on with it, in a sense, to me, like, it's nothing special what I'm doing. But it's only when people relay it back to me, I'm like, yeah, that probably was pretty mad what I've just done there.
Yeah.
And, people, like you said, able-bodied people, non-disabled people would find that walk hard, or they make excuses as to why it's too difficult. But then, you know, I'm in there with in the thick of it with you guys, just getting stuck in, and it was a very hard walk. I actually had a fitness competition to do the next day as well, a couple of days after, on the Sunday. So I was already, you know, busted from the walk, and then went and done this event on Sunday. But as we got to the end of the walk, I was so happy to see that car park. Oh my God, that was probably the best sight I've seen all day.
It was nice.
But yeah, all the
a lovely little intro, honestly. You know, I'm so glad that I got to meet you and spend that time with you, and get you on here.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah,
should we? Years ago, I would have been scared to do podcasts, but yeah, again, I'm just embracing the opportunities and, you know, taking each one as it comes, and yeah, enjoying the ride. And again, if I motivate or inspire someone along the way with my story and kind of what I'm about, then again, that's a blessing. I can't turn that down.
You're right. Should we do some of the music?
Yeah, let's go. This was difficult, man. This because I know this is kind of the meat of the podcast. And when you said pick 4 songs, I was like, geez, this is like, it's hard, and especially meaningful songs as well. Because I've got plenty of songs that I enjoy and that I listen to repeatedly, and I might have workout songs or chill out songs, but having songs that like have meant something to me over the years, I really had to think about it and came up with 4.
It's hard, isn't it? It's hard.
It's hard.
Some people have said that, you know, they could have easily had like over 100 songs, and they're like trying to whittle it down, and then there's folk that have gone, no, do you know what? They came to me within like a minute or 2, and I think you can. It's one of those.
Yeah, mine took a while. It took a while to get back to you, actually.
Yeah,
because I went away and saw, and I was like, what could it be? Because, you know, there's some, you know, there's hip hop songs, there's jazz songs, there's R&B, there's like UK garage, there's a plethora of different songs that have meant something to me at some point. But in terms of, I don't know, just uplifting and songs that take you out of a dark place, like, I don't know, I just ended up falling on these 4.
Well, there's one thing for certain, and that is that you certainly like one band quite a lot.
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
Three songs in your top 5 by Sounds of Blackness.
Yeah.
So the first one is Optimistic.
Optimistic, yes. So kind of reason for kind of Sounds of Blackness being such a prevalent choice in the song, in the list, was I grew up in a Christian household. So my parents are, you know, devout Christians and listened to a lot of gospel growing up. And that particular CD, I remember like just being young and just hearing it like on repeat quite often. And certain songs just kind of resonated with me from back then.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's, you know, messages of pushing through adversity and, you know, keeping your head up and, you know, not letting things get you down and knock you back. And I guess even from a young age, like I've always had struggles and adversity and obstacles, and that song just, or a couple of these songs, spoke to me from then. And it was the message, it was probably the harmonies, the melodies, the beats, all those kind of things. But upon selecting these songs, 3 came from one particular band. And yeah, Optimistic is, you know, when you hear it, it's, you know, very upbeat, very uplifting. I heard it in a coffee shop about 2 weeks ago, and I was just like, would you look at that? Like, everyone's in Starbucks drinking their coffee, and like my favorite. So I think, and I actually sent you the link to that song that day, and then it came on in the coffee shop later on.
Well, after you'd sent it?
After I'd sent it, yeah, a couple hours after. If that's not a sign, then I don't know what is. I don't know what is.
There you go. So you mentioned that you grew up in like sort of Christian. Did you say that like gospel as well?
Yeah. So like my mom, she was part of a gospel band in her younger years. When I was growing up, she was always involved in like choirs, so she was always singing in my house. And you know, she's very skeptical of people who sang out of tune, and like everything had to be in perfect harmony. So, and I grew up, you know, I played a couple of instruments growing up as well, so music was a big part of not by choice. But I had to play the violin. Not say had
Yeah.
to. Played the violin, played the piano for a bit as well.
Nice.
Really wanted to play the drums, but yeah,
Yeah.
that wasn't flying in my house.
My daughter plays the drums.
Huh?
Yeah,
Who does?
my daughter.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
good?
Sometimes when she practices.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It was a song that spoke volumes to me back then.
Yeah.
And again, like it's part of I've got like a pick me up playlist that I've got on Spotify that I listen to most mornings.
Yeah.
And yeah, all three of those tracks feature on there, which is pretty much where I fell back on to pick my selections.
Nice. So what was at that see around that time or what? So what sort of age were you around then? Do you reckon?
I must have been about, I don't know, 8, 9, 10.
Okay.
So it wasn't like teens. I wasn't kind of going through.
So that at that kind of age, what job did you want? What was your dream job as an 8-year-old? And sorry, whereabouts did you grow up as well?
I grew up in West London in
West
Hounslow.
London.
Yeah.
In Hounslow, right. Okay.
Yeah. And back then, I think the job at the time, I changed so many times, but I think at that time I was destined to be a vet.
A vet?
Yeah, I loved animals. My best mate at the time, his house was literally like a zoo. So he had every animal imaginable. And yeah, just kind of being surrounded by them. I was like, yeah, I want to be a vet. But then I think I found out how long you had to study for. And I was like, nah, it's okay. It was about 7 or 8 years you had to do like veterinary science or something. I was like, nah, it's okay.
You're like, I'm not doing that.
No, it's quick. It was quicker to become a doctor than be a vet. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing that.
Brilliant. So what did you do instead?
What, as in career?
Yeah. Whereabouts when the dream job was a doctor, and what
it was like a lawyer, it was a vet, it was, those are like my kind of childhood jobs. And then as I grew up, went to uni, like picked a horrible degree. It was IT and business studies, which I didn't really want to do, but at that time, the kind of IT, the .com boom was like really big at that time. And a lot of the kind of older folks I knew who were in IT were doing really well. So just kind of following the money, I picked that. Yeah. But lo and behold, graduated, didn't do anything to do with IT whatsoever, and somehow ended up in the fitness industry. Complete about turn, was not on my radar at all. But again, just things align, things happen. My kind of introduction to wheelchair basketball, which, introduced me to a life of activity and fitness, and 2+2, and here I am inspiring other people to live healthier lives.
How did the wheelchair basketball come about?
That I discovered about 16. I was doing my GCSEs, and the limb fitting center that I went to, the prosthetic center, someone had said, oh, we heard you play basketball, like running basketball with, your friends at school and stuff. And like, try this sport out. And went and tried it. It was great. But at the time it was around exams, so I couldn't, fully commit to it. But when I went back to the club post exams, the club had moved to another location. And back in like 96, there wasn't really much, like Google wasn't around. So you couldn't just, locate a club. And I didn't play the sport up until 2006. So, went to sixth form, went to uni, lived the student life, pissed about for many years, not doing any activity or fitness related stuff at all. And then, found a club in 2007, took it seriously, got drafted into the GB men's program in 2008. And then that's when it kind of got a little bit more serious then. Yeah. Because I had goals to break into the squad for London 2012 and then Rio 2016.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's where it kind of leveled up, and then went to Germany.
So what happened then?
There was a great bunch of guys already kind of established in the squad, and the team that went to Beijing in 2008, they were solid. leading into London. There wasn't that much changes, and having classification points. So according to your disability, you get a certain classification. The classification I had was a little bit tricky to kind of slot into the team that already existed.
Right.
And yeah, I think it was just hard to get in because the guys were at the top of their game at the time.
Yeah.
But being amongst, the best in the country, the elite, going and playing abroad and playing,
that in itself.
That's what I mean.
That's an achievement, isn't it? Right.
Learned a bunch of life lessons, made some great friends as well. Got to travel around, not the whole world, but different locations playing a sport I love playing. And yeah, it led me to where I am now. So definitely got no regrets.
Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. I'm wondering, should we move on to your second song?
Yeah, let's do that.
Because do you know what? It just fits so neatly into what you're saying, because the next song is Everything Is Going to Be All Right. Another one from Sounds of Blackness.
Yes.
I didn't realize how long this song was.
It's a good, I don't know how long, it must be like a good 6 minutes or something, 7 minutes. I don't know.
It goes, doesn't it?
And the thing is, that song struck me at that age because I initially liked the beat of the song, but the message also was quite powerful because the guy's talking about life's being rough and can't control things. And, it feels like life's got you in a stranglehold. And as a kid, it's kind of pretty advanced talk, but for some reason I still kind of resonated with the whole struggle aspect of it. And the song's saying everything's going to be all right. There's going to be some pain sometimes, but again, everything's going to be all right in the end. And we all go through periods of lows, and eventually things iron out. Things get better, and you can't really appreciate the highs without the lows. And that's something we learn on Alliance quite often.
Yeah,
everything's a test.
One of the in that vein, highs and lows. One of the things that I loved, one of the hashtag your life hacks on your Instagram was about using the weekend to build the life you want. What do you want your weekends to look like? Because if you spend the weekend constantly letting your hair down, then that's so. I just love that. I love that. I love that. What do the kids call them these days? Memes. A lovely quote.
These things, yeah.
But what I know about myself, when I post things, I've definitely experienced, what I'm posting, and I'm guessing the same is true. So have you had a period yourself where you used the weekends?
Yeah.
Maybe not to build your life.
Yeah, I've never really had any, say, potential issues with, drink or anything but you do have this kind of mindset of, oh, it's the weekend. I can, forget the week that's passed. I can, get a takeaway or go out partying or, just kind of immerse yourself in some kind of distraction. And, again, it's only in the last, 5-6 years since working with, people to improve their lifestyle, better habits, get them fitter and healthier in the gym.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the weekend is a stumbling block for a lot of people. And I put a few posts over the years about the weekend being their weekend. And, it's all well and good to, relax a little bit, be a bit more varied.
What do you look like?
What do mine look like now?
What do your weekends look like?
So now Friday night will be probably ordering a takeaway on a Friday or a Saturday night, one of the two nights with the missus, watch some Netflix. I don't watch TV during the week hardly. So I get one evening or one or two evenings of the week to put on a film or watch a series or something. During the day, I'll have what I call a daddy and daughter date, which is something that has arisen from being on Alliance and, having family is one of the goals. It's where I take the girls out myself and we go and do something fun, just like me and them. So that will be either on a Saturday, Sunday. I do wheelchair basketball practice now that COVID restrictions have lifted, and that's always been a part of my weekend on a Saturday. So that's now back into play, which has been a godsend for like myself and a lot of the disabled community. And then Sundays, a lot of it's just like prepping for the following week. So every now and then I might go and meet up with some friends. We might do something, but a lot of it is now trying to review the week, prep for the next week.
A decent week coming.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of just putting things in place to make sure the next week is a success in some way or form. But it's not like kind of drowning out the week I've just had or trying to escape it, because, if you keep doing that, you find that the whole year's passed and you've not made any progress whatsoever.
Yeah.
Rather than using the weekend to escape the week you just had, use it to build the following week you want. And I saw that quote somewhere else. Like, it's definitely not mine, but you put your own spin on it and, put your own take on it. And just kind of encourage people to not let it all go on the weekends, because the fact is you still got to face the next week and it's still going to be shit if you don't do anything about it.
So you mentioned that you would watch a movie or a box set or something. So what? I'm not going to ask you what recent movie you've watched, because crikey, the last one I watched was absolutely terrible. What was your all-time favorite movie?
First one that comes to mind would be Usual Suspects.
Oh, what a choice!
Again, that's a hard one because there's a bunch of amazing films out there, but someone actually asked me that on a course, and that just came to my mind just because of the amazing sick twist at the end. I was like, what an actor! Like, what a guy!
Yes, great film. What about a box set?
At the minute, like my favorite. Okay, there's Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
But I say Sons of Anarchy I enjoyed a lot more. What else? There's a couple other good ones too.
Yeah, but I've not watched all of Sons of Anarchy.
Have you not?
No, Breaking Bad for me is that's probably the best series I've watched in about 20 years.
It took a while to start. It was a bit slow. I think even like the whole first series was a little bit like, and then someone said, "No, stick with it." Yeah. And by season 2, you're like, "Oh shit, this guy is serious." But no, so have you not finished Sons? You've not gone through that all?
No, I did. I think I did the first season and just didn't go through it. And it's one that my good lady and I have been saying we should revisit.
It's another Breaking Bad by season 2, and you'll fully invest in some of the characters as well. I might have to bring that back out and make my missus watch that too.
Right. That's it. Well, do you know what? We've just finished one. So that's what we'll go on to. So finally on your weekends, favorite takeaway. If you could only have one takeaway ever again, what would it be?
I would probably have to say Chinese. I'd have to say Chinese. I don't have it often. It's kind of like a hangover type takeaway, and hangovers don't happen often. So and they're just bloody calorically, the calorie minefield Chinese. Definitely up there, because the variety, you can just go in many different directions. I mean, I'd love to enjoy Indian food a bit more, but I'm just not that learned on it. Pizza's always, a sure hit, but it's quite limited. But Chinese food, I'd say, is my ultimate choice. Yeah.
Right. And last question, you've just talked about them as well. Daddy-daughter dates, so families obviously massively important to you. Like I've said this, you inspire loads of folk yourself, but I'm guessing your family inspires you as well. So give a couple of examples. In what ways do your family inspire you?
My kids, just like some of the things they do and some of the things they say just literally move me. And like my youngest is just, fearless. She says what she thinks. She's got, really, really, like, she's an old soul in like a 4-year-old's body. Like even my mum has said, like, I wouldn't be like, Ari's been here on this earth before. She's literally just like a little adult. And the kind of whole not caring what anyone thinks. Kids wanted, like, you've got a daughter. She probably wanted to like wear her own dresses and outfits when she was little, and they look bloody ridiculous. But this is kids like just don't care. They're like unapologetically themselves, and
well, yes,
that's something I take kind of inspiration from them, because as you grow, you kind of start to care more about what people think and the good opinions of other people, and kind of taking the leaf out of their book, because I just do what makes you happy. Like, don't worry about others and what other people think. And it's still something that I've it's like an ingrained habit of mine and a behavior. And again, just from my background of being like the only disabled kid that I knew, like I've always had that kind of underlying hindering thought of what are people thinking, how's this going to look? And yeah, just looking at her, and I'm like, you know what, just like, don't give a shit. Just do what makes you happy and speak your mind, and just, find pleasure in, the little things in life. And yeah, like I'm trying to be a better man for the two of them, because they're making me.
Can eat you up that stuff when you kind of seek that sort of external validation, and you're always kind of, it can, you can take it a bit too far, can't you? I think that it's one of the reasons. It's one of the reasons that that this podcast came about. And like the live videos and stuff like that, and doing what we're doing now. I think that they're, and I'm a little bit older than you. Okay, maybe a lot older, but I think you get to a point in your life where you're like, hold on a second, and because it all comes down to when you're seeking other people's sort of validation, it's because you just need to kind of make peace with yourself. That's what that's all about, isn't it? You really just need to like yourself better. And when you kind of make peace with all your old demons and sort of give yourself a bloody break and tell yourself that you are good enough and you're worthy and you deserve what you've got, you can stop looking for that from other people. Right?
Validation, yeah, it's true. Yeah. And it's a long journey, and it's like a lot of hard work when something's just been like ingrained in you from like childhood, essentially. But it is liberating when it does happen. But as human nature is, you kind of go in and out of these kind of underlying thoughts and negative emotions. But you do have the tools to pick yourself up and change your focus. And that's what you got to kind of put your attention on.
Yes, your attention on your intention.
Exactly.
So, do you know your musical choices? Your musical choices of actually the perfect. I often try and interweave some questions into, related to the songs as well. Your next one is "Traveling" by Quentin Harris.
Yeah.
So is there a story here?
So that one came a lot later on in life. That's a funky house track, and it's really melodic. Another kind of message in it where the guy says, like, I'm losing sleep. There's no time to eat. Work so hard every day. It's again kind of one of these, life gets on top of you, but you travel away, escape these things, and appreciate the smaller things in life. And I just remember times in my car just be like belting it out, just like singing really loud and just feeling really good doing it. And it's just one of those songs that stuck with me as a kind of a really good feel-good song. But the message again is, life's tough, but crack on, put your head down, just get through it by any means possible.
Yeah, just go for it. What's going to be the first place you go when you're off abroad?
I'd love to go somewhere with the family. I haven't really. I mean, I'd said I'd love to take the kids to somewhere like the Maldives or something, but
Oh,
I don't know what, I'm not saying that's even in the bank balance yet to go, but it's somewhere where I'd love to take the kids. But then kind of looking at it, I'm like, is there anything for like kids to even do there? It just looks like they'd just be bored as fuck, you know what I mean? Just sitting on the beach like, what do we do, Daddy? Are there any parks, any swings? Like, no, it's just beautiful beaches. So no, I would love to go. Like Barcelona is actually one of my favorite cities in Europe.
Yeah.
But I'd love to take the kids to like Disney World or something. They would literally lose their minds. So
yeah.
So I mean, but I can't see that happening. I don't know if we're traveling like anytime soon. You know, vaccinations and stuff, we're all good. But
yeah. How old are the girls?
5 and 4.
5 and 4. So, you're all right. I think by the time you won't by the time hopefully things get back to some state of normality, I think they'll still fall within that magic age category. I think there's that gap, isn't there? That sort of.
I would have liked to have taken them when they weren't classed as like little adults and paying full whack. Got the discount rate.
You're not from Yorkshire or Scotland. I'm messing about. I said you were going. I don't want to pay them as young adults. We'll go when they're young and pay less. I was like, are you sure you're not from Yorkshire?
So I'm not paying that.
I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly.
Yeah, it'd be nice to go abroad. We had a nice little family break last week up and down in Bristol, just north of a nice little place called Thornbury, and we just got away for a week and spent time with the in-laws, and the kids had their cousins to play with, and yeah, it was really nice. Got some good meditations in, good bit of downtime, switched off from technology, didn't had a couple of phone-free days.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good. It was good to get away and recharge, but just like most breaks, they finish just like that, and then you're back to the grind again.
I know, back to it.
Yeah,
here's a question for you. What would you say has been your biggest challenge that you faced in the last few years, like kind of recently, and how have you kind of overcome that?
The biggest challenge easily would be damaging the ligaments in my ankle last lockdown last year.
Did you do that on the trampoline?
Yeah. I was on the trampoline. So the kind of story behind that is I've always wanted to learn how to do like the back tuck, like the back somersault. And I've seen other one-legged guys on the gram, like good old Instagram. I've seen other people do it, and I'm like, okay, so it is doable. Just got to practice and get over the fear and repetition. But I've always thought, if I land this wrong, twist my ankle, I'm done. I can't do this, that, and the other. But in my head, it was like, if I overcome this fear, and like most things, you're scared. It's all kind of perceived in your head, and then when you actually learn the skill or do the thing, then it becomes, you're like, oh, what was I worried about? And I thought, if I get this skill down, then what else could I unlock that I'm scared of doing? Like, could I potentially like level up in other ways? Because the whole thing of like going upside down and that was just like, that's one of the scariest things I could think of. But in doing it, like I did get a couple of good hands.
Again, how many people with 2 legs would even try to do that?
Again, it's just me and my determined self, and everyone's like, when it happened, obviously, like I've done a few and landed them, and you try and do that one extra rep, and then that's when I went to do the front flip, but before I'd even jumped, I tried to kind of flip over, and the ankle just went pop.
It's filmed, isn't it?
Yeah, I filmed it because you got to film everything. So I actually got the injury happening, and you can like hear the pop. I literally just buckle into a heap, and I'm like swearing and like rolling around, and my missus comes out. She's like, "You all right?" I'm like, "No." So yeah, that was just like you know, the pain was intense. The kids were inside watching Lion King, like not giving no care in the world. Like daddy's just lying on the floor with his leg elevated in the air. They're just like watching Hakuna Matata. It's great. So then went hospital, you know, got the cast on and stuff. But being the guy with one leg who, you know, doesn't let anything stop him, I was literally, you know, I had to use a wheelchair to get around. I had to like shuffle around on my bum to get around the house and go up and down the stairs. And it was tough just because I've not had anything kind of hold me back before. And I've always been able to get around independently. And then having this happen was like a massive blow to, it's kind of like me, my mental health, my identity in a sense. And it was in the middle of lockdown as well, when things were tough for everyone at that time. But and again, you like kind of changing your focus from, you know, what's bad and what's shit to, you know, what's good. At that time, I was doing all of my sessions with clients virtually anyway. So everyone was at home. I'd already started to do sessions online with clients. So like if there was any time to, you know, damage your ankle, it was kind of then. And it, you know, it forced me to kind of sit back and spend time with family and do some reflection, and, you know, started to go to physio when things opened up. And, you know, now I'm like kind of 90% better. It still hurts. I don't think it's ever going to be 100%, but I'm able to train. I mean, I did the walk with, that was kind of like a year when it happened, when we all did the walk in Peak District. That was like a year from it happening. So that weekend was like a big milestone for me, knowing that I've, you know, I've come that far. I'm able to kind of challenge myself and push myself again. But yeah, that was probably one of the biggest challenges mentally for me that time, because I'd already, you know, had some struggles before that, and then that happened, and it was just like, whoa, like as if lockdown wasn't hard enough already. I've gone and done this just to up the ante a little bit.
So what got you through that?
I think it's taking a day at a time and just kind of willing myself better. Like again, there's, you know, we all have obstacles and things like that we come to in life, but I've always had some thing to get over, or some adversity, some kind of limitation. I was like, oh, well, this is just going to be another one that I've got to encounter and overcome. And it is a long journey, but, you know, gradually fought back bit by bit, started to put pressure on the foot and, you know, do some of my rehab exercises. And yeah, gradually started to use the crutches, use the chair less, and kind of before I knew it, I was kind of back to normal again. But it's, you know, in hindsight, seeing where I've come from again, like it wasn't broken. Like I knew it wasn't that I couldn't come back from it at all. But
how long were you out of action in the end?
It was about 3-4 months, I think. 3-4 months. I was in the chair for like a good 2 to 3 months, and then kind of gradually started to launch out.
Was there just out of personal curiosity here, how much pain did you have during that time? I'm not being some sick, twisted. I'm being,
no, like it was.
You know what's happening here. You know, like what I've got. Like what?
Yeah.
Was it? You know, was it? Were you
it was pain? Like keep me up at night, kind of pain. Just like constant, like throbbing. I mean, I didn't have to wear a cast, thankfully, but just the size of my ankle literally just blew up, and even if I elevated it, it would kill. When I put it down, it would kill. You had to constantly ice it and all the rest. And like I've never experienced any, I've never broken anything before. I think just because I've been a pretty cautious guy by nature, I've not broken anything, not sprained anything, but that was my first like major injury. And over time things started to gradually release, but it was tough. I had to kind of rely on my missus to help me, you know, get around, which is something I've never had to do. And, you know, she's a godsend for doing that. You there? Okay, first. But it was.
No, I'm here.
Yeah, it was a big challenge mentally, obviously physically, but, you know, people have done things, they've injured themselves, they've fought back, and I was like, well, I can do the same as well. And a year and a bit on, I'm back competing in fitness competitions and training hard. I'm meant to be doing Tough Mudder this month. Yeah, there's a few things on the cards, and
Tough Mudder.
yeah, doing Tough Mudder, doing a 10K Tough Mudder. I've done one of them before. I've done a Spartan race. I've done Ninja Warrior. Like, there's a few things I've done, and oh, did you not know that one either?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that was 2018.
What one would you are you like targeting? Because there's lots of mad ones, right? It's like I'm speaking to like a one-legged David Goggins. When do you stop?
I don't know if you do, man. I'm like in working in the fitness industry and training and being exposed to fitness and the gym, etc. Like, I'm kind of learning more about what I'm capable of doing. And in the past, it's always been about what I couldn't do and like my limitations and my physical incapabilities, as it were.
Yeah.
And in kind of not wearing my leg anymore, it's kind of allowed me to explore more things and, working in fitness and going to different events and meeting different people. I'm now at a point where I'm like, oh, I need to have a challenge like every month. I need to have some, because I'm not trying to be, like super muscly or like hench or, trying to be the biggest guy. I'm not trying to lift the most weight. I haven't really got any goals like that per se, but I kind of just want to be fit for life, like fit for everything. Just whatever comes along, I can give it my best shot and do it. I can do a 11-mile hike. I can do a functional fitness competition. I can do an obstacle course race. I can climb trees with my kids. Like, it's just being able to do what I want when I want, essentially.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Have you worn a prosthetic at all?
Yeah, so I spent most of my early year, like most 25 years wearing a prosthesis. And
you did? Okay.
Yeah, so that was just from a young age. It was, I got taken to Roehampton Limb Fitting Centre when I was two or three. Got given got a leg molded for me. And yeah, it's like the leg had always been a part of my identity then, just because as a kid, like, I didn't want to be different or stand out.
Okay.
It was all about blending in and, masking the disability and just being as normal as possible. But in doing that, like, the leg was, super uncomfortable. My right leg's missing from the hip, so there's actually no stump for the socket or the prosthesis to fit into.
Oh wow.
So just, birth defect, came out with, no leg from the hip at all. And just the way it used to fit was, super uncomfortable. It was kind of a pain I just endured day to day, wearing it to school. But as soon as I got home, I would just like take it and just like throw it in a corner and just hop around, because that was me in my kind of natural state.
More comfortable. Yeah,
more comfortable without it. But it was purely a vanity thing. Like, I just wanted to look normal, as it were. But you could clearly see I had a limp. Like, it was a noticeable limp, which also kind of affected my, self-conscious, like my self-esteem. And I was always self-conscious of the way I looked and how I was moving around. But when I got to 20, I think it was like 23, I was actually with a girlfriend at the time, and she kind of said, well, if it caused you so much discomfort, like, why do you wear it? And it kind of struck home. I was like, well, yeah, why am I doing something that, it causes me mass levels of discomfort and, I don't really enjoy it. But it was just something that I'd always done to fit in, but then started to wear it a bit less and gradually got over the whole kind of insecurity thing of, people staring and people watching. And before I knew, I just didn't care about, or I didn't see other people's reactions or, how they looked. It was just what I did.
Yeah.
Now I haven't worn it fully, probably in about 10 years, I don't think.
Oh, yes.
Well, no, longer than that, actually. 2004 was like when I started to transition away from it.
Yeah.
And then, I got a car at the time as well, which helped massively with my independence and getting around.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of who I am now. Like no one really notices that I'm missing a leg. Like kind of, I think just the way I get around and some things I make look kind of easy. You know, people don't really register that I'm missing a leg, and
so I was gonna ask you a question there, but you've actually reminded me of another. So I've got two, both related.
Okay, yeah.
I've got to go back, because if I don't ask you this one now, then I won't ask you. So you mentioned that it was a girlfriend, like an old girlfriend had said to you at the time, if it causes you that much discomfort, then why do you wear it? Think about what's the weirdest thing that's ever happened on a date? Anything weird ever happened to you on a date?
Yeah. So I was in Thailand a few years back. Oh no, a long time ago, like 2008. And like we were in Koh Samui in a club. Met a girl there, and she's out there with her mum, like pretty girl stuff. So exchanged numbers, like nothing happened on the holiday. But then we ended up meeting when I came back, like back in the UK, and she came around to my house, came like all the way up to see me, and then we're just about to get down to it, and then she's like, "Oh, I'm really uncomfortable with this." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "You met me in Thailand on my crutches with one leg. We went through all the we exchanged numbers, we chatted for a bit. Like, why is it only now that it's a problem?" And then we just parted ways, never spoke to her again, just deleted her number, left her off. But like I look back and I laugh now, and at the time I wasn't like scarred or anything. But I'm like, it's not like I had the leg and I was standing still. You didn't know, and then when you got back to my house, it was then like I'm like surprised. It was like no, you met me like this from the start. So I'm not sure where the whole uncomfortable discomfort things come from, but
yeah.
If she stayed around, she would have found out I was all right. You know what I mean? She might have had a good time if she stayed around. But yeah, that was weird. Apart from that, like dates, nothing stands out. Apart from that, that was just one of the more funnier situations that happened.
Right. So we almost need.
That's a good question. That was a very good question.
We almost need to come on to the next song now, because it's called "I'm Going All the Way." Just seems like an appropriate time to move.
What a segue! Yeah, right into that song. Yeah. Definitely didn't go all the way that time, but no. That's another Sounds of Blackness song.
Sounds of Blackness again, yeah.
And the kind of chorus is whatever it takes to make it. I'm going all the way. Yeah. I may be down sometimes, but I won't be down always. You see, there's a theme here. There's a theme with a lot of these songs, and it's uplifting again. Just kind of gives you strength through the words.
Yeah,
great song, great singing, great melodies, and yeah, like I hope you enjoy this. They're quite long songs though. They're not like 3-minute songs.
They are, but they're nice. They're nice, and do you know what? It's such a the style of music. It's just just conjures up for me images of just it's relaxed. It's just such a good vibe. Yeah, I really enjoyed listening to them. I always do. I listen to them all just as I'm getting ready. So yeah, really, really nice. And I know what you mean. I'm going.
It's just like melodic. It's singing them makes you feel good. You can kind of play it on like a Sunday afternoon. But those are the kind of songs that I've got a couple of different playlists, but that one's especially called like Pick Me. I don't know why I called it Pick Me Up, but
yeah,
everyone's got a song that boosts them or lifts them, or a selection of songs, and yeah, these are 3 of the same artists or artistes, but yeah, it's just those kind of songs that give me a bit of a lift if I need it.
A bit of a yeah. So here's the next question for you, and it's actually again it's you mentioned just at the end of that story, you were talking about things that that you kind of make look easy. So it's a related question, because I was thinking there must be something that is really simple, something that, like, you know, people that would look at you and never ever think, right? There must be something that we would never guess. So the simplest thing, you know, we'd never know, that's been really, really hard for you.
For me,
Yeah.
So one of my earliest things was riding a bike. That was really hard. And to the point, like, you know, at school, everyone does cycling proficiency at some point. You know, everyone brings their bikes in, but as a you know, kid with a disability, couldn't ride a bike, so couldn't take part in that. Felt a bit like marginalized and left out. But that same friend who I spoke about, who had all the, you know, all the pets in his house from like A to Z, he had like quite a big back garden, and, you know, rode their bikes, and him and his dad his dad more so came up with this genius idea of like tying a piece of like string / rope to tie my leg to the pedal of the bike. And the feeling of actually riding a bike, like whenever I meet up with them, they still always go on about how, you know, how happy I was at the time. But the only problem was when the bike came to a stop and the bike leant right, I was screwed, because I had nothing to put my foot down with. I'd literally just fall like really slowly, bang, on the floor. So that was like, that's always a running joke when I see these people. But that was something that, you know, you might take for granted as a, you know, an able-bodied individual. And even something like running as well, where, you know, everyone has the capacity to run. But that was something I've, you know, never been able to do. My fastest run was like a, you know, a jog to someone, and then the way I would look running, you know, I'd feel like super self-conscious about it, and I could not run, then I definitely wouldn't. But in my younger years, I'm playing sport.
I don't know. You might not call it running, but you were up that flipping hill at Dovedale. You were flying, mate. So
there's a lot of careful foot placing going on, and like concentrating. And I had a couple of, I think it was quite like damp or like it's a bit dewy where we were as well. Like a couple of times, like the clip struck, the crutch slipped from underneath me, but, you know, I was trying to keep up with the lads, and somewhere along the line, somebody.
Here's a question for you. All of the things that you've kind of achieved, right? And it's just some of the things we've spoken about tonight that you've done in life, that you've just kind of like, you know, steamrollered through, right? How often do you stop and look back at what you've achieved and how far you've come?
Being honest, not often enough. It's, you know, when I speak to people who kind of remind me of things that I've done, you know, I have a moment then and kind of think, well, yeah, that was, you know, pretty awesome what I was able to do. But yeah, I don't think back enough and kind of realize the journey I've been on and where I've come from, because, you know, life could have turned out massively different for me. Like, you know, every decision you make kind of determines how your life ends up. But
will you do me a favor? So once we finish this tonight, this will be available on like YouTube and on my Facebook and stuff like that.
Yep.
When could you possibly watch the last 10 minutes of this podcast again? You don't need to find a whole hour to listen to you and I chatting, but when could you listen to the last 10 minutes?
By Sunday, by the weekend.
And then let me know when you've watched it.
At least. Yes, I will.
There you go. All right.
He's like, you don't have to look far. You don't have to look far.
Anyone, and you know why I'm asking you to do this. If there's anyone that could just stop and look back, mate, honestly, listening to what I've heard tonight and speaking to you when I did, I've learned lots more about you tonight, and I think you are even more splendid, inspirational, just amazing person that than I did before, and I didn't think that was possible, honestly.
No, I appreciate that.
What would you do if you had £100 million?
Oh, 100 mil.
Yeah.
Move my family out the area I'm in, pay my debts off, go traveling.
Yeah.
Open up a gym as well, actually. That's something that I've been thinking I want to do recently.
Yeah.
My own space. There's a few things. 100 million, that's life-changing money.
Yeah. Isn't it?
Sort my parents out, I'd help my family. Yeah, there'd be a few things I'd do.
Yeah. I think you're about the third or fourth person. In fact, probably more. A lot of people have said traveling. Yeah, it's a big one. I think especially now.
yeah, 100%. People are really pushing to get breaks, and whether it's abroad or staycations, I completely get why getting away is a priority for people, because it's been a hell of a last 18 months, and I think you
should travel to Scotland when you get a chance, mate. It's a really nice country, and we do get some sun occasionally.
Every now and then, occasionally. There's actually so this functional fitness event I was talking about, there's actually one happening next weekend, but I can't go. But it's actually in I think it's in Edinburgh. I think.
Is it in Edinburgh?
It's Glasgow. I can't remember. But yeah, there's a national fitness games in Scotland, and I was like, well, why are you lot going all the way up there? But it's sold out already, so people are ready to take it on up there and
get on it. Yeah.
I will be up.
You also mentioned that you would open up a gym. Now, I wrote this question down. I've asked you, or we've spoken about or covered all the questions that I had for you. Just this one. Actually, there's another one, but I don't know whether or not I should ask you or not. So,
ask me
why do you think people give up? If you think of like people that you see that come to the gym, people that you maybe coach, that like in and around sort of their diet and nutrition, this is your bag, right? This is your thing, right? Why do you think is that people give up?
A lot of it comes down to, I think, setting realistic goals, for one. People come to the gym, and I mean, there's a lot of people that are kind of unhappy with like their bodies or various aspects of life, and they then kind of resort to the first thing they feel they have control over, being their body or their weight per se, and then set quite a lofty goal, and then it may not happen in the time frame that they kind of hoped, and you don't see the results they want. Things are quite hard. There's challenges, there's things that they have to kind of sacrifice, there's behaviors that they're not quite willing to give up or change, and yeah, it ends up just becoming a bit of a chore for some people, or they just lose motivation, they lose drive, or they just deem it as just too hard. So there's a myriad of reasons why people give up, but I think a lot of it is down to either not connecting with their goal or their reason why they're doing what they're doing, or they've kind of just had some unrealistic expectation that's not been met, and just think, oh, what's the point? It's too hard. Don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a few reasons, but that's one of the ones that come to mind, and it's a hard thing trying to get people to kind of change these behaviors, because we've all got behaviors that we fall back on, and some of them are damaging to us, some of them aren't productive, some of them aren't conducive to where we want to be. But equally, changing somebody's kind of mindset or attitude around the actions they're taking is a lot harder than they think, or sometimes I think. Like it's quite hard with some people. It takes a long time. Some people get it quicker than others, but
But it's actually really simple, isn't it? At the core of it, because like until somebody actually wants to change and they want to and to change, they're willing to actually change something or a lot of things about their life.
Yeah.
It's like without anything changing, nothing changes, right?
Nothing changes. Nothing changes. And that old saying by Einstein, insanity is repeating the same actions and expecting a different result. And
yeah,
I'm like, I could write you, I could sit down and calculate your calories and your macros and write you out a diet plan. I could make you a 5-day training plan that covers all your muscle groups and improve. If you're not in the space to change, if you're not going to change the kind of damaging behaviors that got you there in the first place, then doing all of that stuff is kind of pointless. You've got to actually want to make the changes yourself. That the pain of staying the same has got to be greater than the kind of pain of change or the sacrifice of change.
Yeah.
And it's a whole lot of psychology, man. A lot of it is psychology. It's mad.
I know. We could be here another hour or two
that's
talking about that. But we've got one more song left, and then I've got one more question for you.
Oh yeah, go for it.
So the last song is not by Sounds of Blackness. It's Into My Life by Elements of Life, right?
Yeah, that's another funky house song, or another house song.
Is there a story here, or is it more of a feeling? Does it conjure back memories?
It's a feeling, more of a feeling song, similar to Traveling.
Yeah.
Just an era of kind of, when I just fell in love with soulful house and funky house. And it was just one of those songs that was on a mix CD that just kind of made me like burst into song as well. And definitely wasn't singing in tune. Like my mum would be like mortified hearing me sing nowadays. But yeah, it's just one of those songs that, I mean, the words are kind of like I don't actually know the words as good as I do the other ones, but it's just a feel good tune that I fall back on. It just appeared, Spotify kind of brings up related songs that you keep listening, and then it just popped up, and I was like, oh shit, I haven't heard this song in years, and then it just went straight into the pick me up, and then that just got repeated time after time each morning.
Love it.
And I mean, I could have put probably another 4 songs out of that playlist, but I kept thinking, which ones, do the most for me day to day, and came up with these 5.
Yeah, mate.
I hope you enjoyed listening to them too. And
mate, I have. Do you know what? And I'll listen to them again, and they all go onto the playlist. One of the things that I do, and I'm a few weeks behind.
Okay.
All of the songs that all my guests choose, they go on a Spotify playlist, Apple Music playlist.
Awesome.
So I'll chuck them on there as well.
I forget to hear what some of the other guys listen to as well. Then.
Yeah. So we'll get them added on there. I've absolutely loved talking to you tonight. It's been thank you so much for coming on.
And I'm honoured that you asked me to come on. And again, like kind of when I get invites like these, sometimes I'm like, oh, not why me, but I don't see as myself as anything spectacular. But then sit down and talk to you, like, mate, listen back to the last 10 minutes and see what you've achieved, and you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right.
You're doing better than all right. So listen, my question that I ask most guests, I can't ask you it because I would actually, it would be insulting to our conversation. I ask people how they apply their JFDI. I think if there's anybody listening that doesn't realize that you've been living your JFDI since the day that you were born,
pretty much, yeah,
crazy. However, I can't ask you that, but I can ask you this instead, because you're the only person that I'm ever going to be able to ask this.
God, ask away.
You obviously have a lot of spare shoes, right? What do you do with them all?
Well, that's the bane of my life. Literally, I've always loved trainers. I've collected a quite sizable amount over the years, and actually, when I came back from Germany, I wanted to set up I don't know if it was a company, but I wanted to have a place where, you know, amputees or people who had mismatched shoes could like swap shoes. And I had the name for it and everything. I was going to call it Soulmates, but I just didn't know how to get off the ground, so it never went anywhere. And to this day, people still ask me like, what do you do with all your spare shoes? And I went and gave a bunch of them to a guy who was setting up a shop for, you know, single-sided shoes. They never got back to me, never returned any shoes to me, never paid me or anything. So a lot of my collection just went somewhere. But what I need to do is find an amputee or a guy who has his right leg, who's a size 9 and has the same taste in shoes as me. And that's it. Like, we could go halves on shoes for like the rest of our day.
Mate, I tell you what, there's got to be a charity thing in there, like an online single shoe swap. That must, if that and like for all proceeds, or like a chunk of proceeds to charity, that they must exist. No,
I found a Facebook group, but it's not really booming at the moment. So I put on, you know, I bought a pair of Nike Metcons the other day, and I'm like, right, who wants the size? Who wants the right size? I don't think anyone's even responded. So I'm like, all right, this group's not really popping off then.
People they're getting picky, are they? They're like, no, that's not cool enough for me.
I don't know. And the thing is, with like a fair degree of amputees, they still wear their prosthetics, so they need a pair.
So they need a pair.
Yeah, so I'm looking for that person who, like me, doesn't want to wear a prosthesis, but, you know, probably trains.
Yeah,
like stylish trainers, like training trainers. But yeah, I will find that person. Just until then, the shoe collection's clocking up again.
I think maybe what we need to do is splice off the last 2 minutes of our conversation tonight and like ask people to share it and like see just get some like shoe sharing going on.
My soulmate,
mate. Listen, thank you so much for coming on. It's been absolutely brilliant, absolutely fantastic to speak to you. You are an absolute gentleman, and we will hopefully I shall see you soon.
Yeah, mate, let's do it. I'm not sure when or how, but the quarterly for sure. But
yeah, absolutely.
Then yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this out, and I'll share it on all my channels, and
mate,
get some traction.
Some man. Listen, stay in the green room. Oh, I tell you what we'll do just before we say good night to our viewers. A few people that were just tuning in that you might know. I don't know if you can see the comments. Craig Jones.
Yeah, Craig
on. We had Delta Mike Lima, who agrees with you. Chinese food of the gods.
Yes.
I think my good lady wife was referring to the children earlier.
Oh yes, I saw that one pop up. Yes. The youngest.
And then I think just wrapping up, there we go. A few comments. Absolutely fascinating chat tonight, guys. Loved it. Thank you, mate.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate that.
It's all Tyler. You've done it. Mr. Gillespie's been watching.
Yes. Our Craig. Yes, man. Thank you for tuning in as well.
And one final one. You've got another fan in my good lady wife, I think, Tyler.
Thank you, Mrs. Richardson. Appreciate that.
Right.
Thank you for tuning in.
Well, viewers, thank you very much. Next week, I will have news before next Thursday as to what is happening, because we might be doing something special, might be having a holiday. I'm not sure. But news to follow. News to follow. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Big shout to man Tyler Saunders, and we shall see you soon on the JFDI podcast.
Thanks, guys.